to our last user story in our create project workflow to manually test. All right, so it looks like we are going to be pretty much just adding a task and seeing the success toast, okay? So let's go to a user story. Let's go to a user story. Right now we have 0 out of 0. We're gonna add a task. Let's try to add one. We have to add the name. So let's do task 1, and then let's create the task. Okay, task created, and now we have 0 out of 1. Let's go ahead and add one here. Test task 3, and now we have 0 out of 3. Okay, so that seems pretty tested in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and move it over. Let's refresh the page just to make sure that those saved. So it says that we have two user stories, which we do. We have 1 task in this user story and 3 in this user story, which is true. Okay. Then let's go back to project, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 features in this project. It looks like I forgot that we're just doing to do in progress or done for here, so that looks good. So everything so far in terms of the create project workflow looks good. So that means that we can move on to testing our next feature, okay? So I'm gonna move create project workflow over to done, and let's go ahead and just start working on our edit project workflow. All right, so I'm going to add a QA column. I'm gonna move it back here, and then I'm going to pull over all of my user stories, okay? The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my first one. So users can edit a task. Okay, so there should be an icon button next to the task name that on click turns a task name box into editable input. All right, so let's go find a task to edit. All right, and let's go down here. So if I click edit button here, this turns into editable things. All right, so I already see a UI issue where my input is 40 pixels tall and it needs to be 32 instead. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and create a column for UI issues, and I will make the card, which would be edit task input is too tall. All right, and then let's go ahead and continue. All right. The next thing that we will do, so let's actually test that it works though. So if I just click save, it just is gonna save it. I think something that I don't love about this is that I didn't change it, so I don't really feel like I need this to update. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is, since it's here, I'm just gonna go ahead and change this to 32. So now if I go to edit this, it's the correct height. And if I edit this, it's the correct height, because they're all the same task block, okay? Let's go to edit modal, or edit update task. All right, so it looks like if we have no task name and then I click save, it's gonna just give me back what I originally had, which I think makes sense, and then I can save it. All right, that is good. I want to, I think, so I'm gonna add a bugs column now. All right. And that got fixed, so we can move that out of there. So I want to say task, edit task sends non-edited task name to back end and shows toast. All right, and we just want it to, if I don't do anything, it doesn't need to communicate with the back end. It's kind of a waste because nothing happens. All right, but let's actually try editing it and see what happens. So I'm gonna say edited task 1. I'm going to click check, and we have a bug, and I'm pretty sure we recorded this bug elsewhere. So I'm going to write edited task is not immediately updated in the UI. All right, let's refresh my page. Let's open it up, and it says edited task 1. So we know it's working on the back end, it's not editing on the front end, but is working on that. Let's say on refresh. Okay, I know that I wrote this in a bug elsewhere, so I'm gonna go to my main thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and archive and delete this because we have it in the bugs within the edit project workflow, and I think that's kind of how I want to handle my bugs, as I want to keep them on the direct features. Okay, so let's keep going. I think that covers the bugs surrounding editing the task. The next thing that we're looking at in terms of editing is the task status. So it should toggle between to do, in progress, and done. All right, so let's give that a try. So if I toggle to do in progress, it moves to in progress, and I got your task has been updated. So that means then that it makes sense that this still says 0 out of 3 because this is telling me how much is done. Okay, but if I close out of this feature here, you can see that this feature moves to in progress because one of the tasks that I'm working on is in progress. So technically I'm working on this feature, if that makes sense. All right, I want to also go back to my project now, and I should be able to see that my project is now in progress because that one feature is in progress. All right, and the task within that feature is in progress, which means that the user story is in progress. Okay. If I turn this to done, you'll see my successful toast task status has been updated, and you'll see 1 out of 3 there, and nothing will change here because the whole user story is not done. But let's go ahead and update all of these to done. So now we have 2 out of 3 are done. This is still in progress. This is still in progress. So now let's move this to 3 out of 3 is done. So now this user story is done. So if I look at this, 1 out of 2 user stories are done, but it's still in progress. And my project is still in progress. Let's go ahead and update this task to done. You can see now 1 out of 2 is done. And you can see that this entire feature has moved to done. So that makes sense exactly how it is. So let's go ahead and look at this. So we don't have a user story or tasks. So without those, we aren't able to move it, right? And that is by design. So let's go ahead and add a user story. And let's add a task to it. So that way we can mark the task as when it's in progress. You can see it moved over to in progress. Let's go ahead and mark it as done. And now we have it moved over to done, okay? So I'm gonna kind of do this again because I wanna see the entire project update. I think in the future, all right, so now we have it in progress, move to in progress, done, 1 out of 1, done. All right, the last one that we will have to kind of add some fake data to right, in progress, moved, done, 1 out of 1, and it moves to done. All right, here all we have to do is we should just have to add a task, change it to in progress, done. Now it moves over. That makes sense. All right, let's 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3. All right, I close it. Now all of my features are done. So if I go over to, oops, here, you can see that to-do list is done. Okay, because all of my features are done. If I go and add a new feature, let's call this test feature 4. This is to check overall project status, and I create the feature. You can now see that it moves back to in progress. Okay, so the statuses are working as intended, and I am able to edit a task with the bugs that we have. So I'm going to move this over to done. All right, the next thing is edit a user story. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so we have the edit icon next to the user story, so we can edit a name and a description, and then we should see a success message. Okay, that's pretty fair. All right, so we're going to be editing user stories. So this is my user story here. If I want to edit the name, I would click this. All right, I already see that this is too tall. So because it's pretty quick, I'm going to go ahead and just change it. I scrolled up and it should have scrolled down. So I'm going to change this to 32. All right. And I'm going to first try to change it by doing nothing. And you can see it's going to send it to the back end. So I think I want to do the same thing. All right. And I'm going to add a card and change this to user story, because once again, I don't want to, it's not edited, user story name to backend and shows toast. Okay, let's go ahead and, so that's not changing it. Let's make it blank. All right, it doesn't like making it blank. All right, then let's go ahead and, nope. Let's go ahead and change it. So edit user story 1, and that does update, that works. If I open this and then I click the edit button, it closes, but that makes sense. All right, so we're able to edit the user story name. Let's edit this one. Edit user story 2, that works, okay. Then let's go in and we want to look into editing the description. Okay, so editing the description opens up a text input. That makes sense. Let's go get some random text, and we're going to say edit and add in this random text. Let's save it, and you can see that that edits and pops up. This looks good and centered. Let's edit. Let's get rid of it. I'm going to say edited description for user story 1, and then save. All right, that looks good. Okay, so we're able to edit a user story. What happens if we don't do anything? It's gonna update it and send it to the back end still. So let's go ahead and name and description. All right. Then let's go ahead and now we want to edit it and make it blank. All right, that works. It should go back to there's no user story description. Perfect. All right, so we do get a success toast when we edit the name and description. Let's just verify it looks correct. Your user story name has been updated. Good. All right, let's edit this. Edited description, Your user story description has been updated. All right, perfect. Even the toasts look good. All right, so we can go ahead and, well, I don't know really why we're moving these over because we still have bugs, but we read through it. All right, the next one we're going to read through is we can edit a feature. And if we look at our developer tasks, we need to be able to edit the name and the description, and it should persist on change as well. So let's just refresh to make sure our user stories persisted on change and our descriptions persisted on change, and they did. So now let's look into feature. So if I go to edit, I can already see that we have an issue for our input, but that is okay. So I'm going to go to my feature modal, and I am going to take a look, and I can see that I have my input is 40. Gonna bring it back down to 32, and I'm gonna change this from test feature 4 to edit feature 4, and perfect, that looks great. I'm gonna go ahead and try to save it blank, and it doesn't like that, and I'm gonna save it as just what it was, and it saves it as what it was. But once again, the toast still shows, so we are going to copy this and add it, but now we're going to make it with feature. This isn't really a bug, it's just going to be a preference and like an optimization thing. I just don't like how we have it, so I'm gonna fix it. All right, so now let's take a look at editing feature description. All right, and we're gonna say this is to check editing a feature description. Check. All right, so it's updated, the toast looks good. Let's go ahead and refresh, and it persists, it persists. We're gonna change it, not change it. It does, again, the sending to the back end, and then we're gonna just delete, and it correctly says there's no feature description. All right, that all looks good to me, so editing a feature works. Now let's look at editing a project. All right, so same thing, edit name and description, and then we should be able to save that and show a toast. All right, so here is where we're gonna have our name and our description. So if I just save what I have, your project name has been updated, so it's doing the same thing because that's just kind of how we coded it. So let's go ahead and copy this and paste it in there. So this is going to be edit project, and looks like we need to edit a little bit more. So it's feature, not user story, and this is project, not user story. All right, now let's check if we do nothing. It wants me to enter a valid project name. And then let's try project planning tool and click save, and that edited it. So that's nice, and it says your project name has been edited. Perfect. All right, so this is now we're gonna delete, and it goes to this, there's no product description, which is exactly what we want. I wanna make sure that that is centered. So let's go to project name, project description. Oh, it's because it's a text area. Can I make it line height 32 pixels? No. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's fine, and we will worry about it a little bit later. If ever edited project description. Now that might be something that your designer would care about. It's not something that I particularly care about, so I'm not gonna worry about it, but all right, that works. Now let's refresh to make sure it still works. The toast work. So I think we're doing good in terms of all of our user stories. And when we come back in the next video, we will fix these bugs. But project workflow looks pretty good. All right, see you in the next one.